Hi everyone. Sorry for the big gap in between shows. Moving from the UK to Colombia and everything's messed up on time. So hopefully I'll be getting back into it. Thanks very much for your patience with me. Hope you enjoy this show with Andy Ganner, who cycled all over the world. You know what I mean? He's been doing it most of his life. I apologise, the end cuts off early. For some reason, Skype doesn't do it as good as Zoom, and it missed the last nearly 30 minutes of talking. So please enjoy our stories of bikepacking and cycle touring, or whatever you want to call it. And please like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate the support. Peace out, man. Andy Ganner, I know you from Facebook bikepacking page, which is successful and very different to all the other ones, which I like because it's like loads of banter, everyone taking the piss, and if you don't enjoy that, then you can go. Like so.
If it gets too hot in the kitchen, you know where the door is. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of sense of humour suits me. Like I think that I'm guessing that fed up with all you can't say this, you can't say that. Is that where all that's come from, or is it just? What decided you to do the Facebook page?
Well, I've been on the bike for really decades now. I first started 1986, the first world tour, and that wasn't bikepacking; it was backpacking. And I went out to see an uncle in New Zealand, and ended up working there a bit. He gave me an old car to go around with and a bike, and that started it for me. And I've been back to New Zealand 5 times, cycled the country every time. It's just been a laugh. I've met some really funny people, and the people who are bikepacking, those who are really out there doing it, have got a wicked sense of humour. So, for example, the first German guy I met, I dared to ask him what his thoughts were about the Second World War, and he went really serious and said, well, I have to tell you, Andy, my grandfather died in a concentration camp. And I felt really bad asking him. And I said, sorry, I asked the question. And he said, oh, no worries. It was his own fault. He was drunk and fell from the watchtower. So the Germans have a sense of humour. I live in Germany now, and everybody I've met has been a really good laugh to travel with. I've not travelled with anyone who's been politically correct or over liberal or whatever. Everybody's had a good laugh. So when it came to Facebook and setting up a bikepacking page, I had a look at all the others, and they were dead boring. They're crap. Everybody talking about gear and gadgets and all that, and I got the feeling nobody's riding, nobody's doing anything. They're just talking about stuff and surrounding themselves with bikepacking gear and hoping for a kind of osmosis effect, you know. So I set up my own, which is like you said, a bit off the wall and crazy humor, and you've seen yourself how upset people get.
It amazes me how people get so upset about nothing really, and it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going on today to find something to get upset about more than, oh, that really offends me, I don't like that. It's like I'm going to find something that I'm going to get upset about, and it seems to be more. I don't know about you. Do you think it's more like men or white men getting upset about things about black people, or getting upset about women? Just sort of that. I can't think. I keep forgetting the name of it. You know, where you just like you want to show the world how PC you are, and you want to show the world how you're such a good person. And you know, I see a lot of that. You know, like virtue signaling is the one that it's called now, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It is. It's basically white guys, isn't it? offended when they see a picture of a woman. And I don't know if you noticed, there was a Colombian woman on bikepacking, and she posted a picture of a girl. I think she was in a fountain, one of these fountains that come out of the ground in a plaza. And she was on her bike in a bikini, enjoying this cold water from the fountain in a hot country. And it was a Colombian cyclist, a woman, who posted this, and she got attacked for it, mostly by men. Mostly by men, and the few women who dared to say anything in defense of her were kind of lampooned as well by guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird one, isn't it? Is it exploitation or not? Or who's being exploited at times with these? Like, if you go on Instagram, there's really attractive girls there. If they've got a big boobs, a big ass, they have 1 million followers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can make a lot of money out of that. Whereas I know guys who are like professional fighters working like mad, and they ain't got 1 million followers. You know what I mean? And it's like, he's being exploited at the time. They're doing all right. Fair play to them. Like, if someone's daft enough to give them money for doing that, fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, how many countries have you been to? I feel like I'm quite well travelled, but then I see your posts, and it's like, you've been about some places. Like, is there any way that you haven't been?
I haven't been anywhere in Africa.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't really appeal to me that much. And I've planned trips in the past, but they never really came to anything. I was going to do a Trans-Africa trip from Morocco down to Cape Town, and this would be the thing I would do. But there always seems to be something going on, or a country you can't go across, or jihadists and civil war and whatever. And I've been to some risky places, but you've got to know your limits. And I'm a bit of a strange guy in as much as when I want to do a trip, I want to do it all the way. I can't break the journey. Like I don't want to take a train or a bus or whatever. And I just want to do it all under my own power. And Africa, it's always in turmoil. Bits of it are always in turmoil, and I just don't feel really that I should do that. I'm planning a trip, actually, maybe in 2 or 3 years, Mozambique to Namibia, through Swaziland, Lesotho, South Africa, and that would just be a few months, but something I would do. Yeah.
I've just got back from Kenya. It was all right there, apart from Airbnbs. Other than that, it was fine. Like, you know what I mean? It's people are super friendly. Yeah, they see me, and obviously always thought that I'd want to go on some sort of trip, so they're always asking me about trips and things like that. But I didn't feel like people went out of their way to try and exploit me there. So it wasn't so bad. Yeah, it was all right. It was quite nice for the change. Like, but it's not. I don't know. I didn't resonate with the country like I did like here. Yeah. Like Colombia, it just, I don't know, I felt like I could have just stayed here for ages. Like, I spent 6 months here cycling around, and I don't know, you said you've done backpacking. I should imagine you've flown to places, but cycling is a different speed, isn't it, for seeing things. My thing was, what I'd impressed on people, and I don't know if you feel the same, was I have chats with people in a field. And I'll be cycling, and some guy will I have these random conversations with people in a field, or there's a guy painting a fence, and then he invites me into his house for a drink and some lunch because he can see I'm sweating. And if I'm backpacking, I go from town to town, and I don't have that. But I've still got enough speed to go on a bike, but it's slow enough that I can talk to anyone. And I found that I just had some amazingly random conversations, which sometimes they didn't understand me and I didn't understand them, but it went on for half an hour. How about you?
Totally
what's your
understand.
thing for cycling?
Well, you're in South America now, and the first time I went to South America, it was a it was a backpacking trip, and I went with a mate of mine. And we started in Caracas, and there's no train services hardly in South America, so we went through Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, then came back through the Amazon, through Brazil, back to Venezuela. And many a time I would be in the bus looking out of the window between towns, between cities. And on occasion, I'd see some guys on bicycles. Sometimes they would be sitting at the side of the road, eating, talking to local people. I thought how nice it would be to be out there and not in a bus full of people, looking through glass and not really in control of stopping when I want. So the last South America trip I did was 2012, and this was Bolivia, Peru, Chile, and Argentina. And that was completely different because I love Bolivia. I went through by bus before, had a good feeling, but to do it by bicycle and just talk to people who are herding llamas or be offered mate de coca and, like you, invited into people's farmhouses and just camping where you want to. Just the independence. And this is something you can't convey to people. When people ask me, isn't it dangerous? That's always the first thing, isn't it? Yeah. Isn't it dangerous? No, because I can avoid all the dangerous places, like bus stations, railway stations, city centres.
Yep.
I don't have to go there. And
sorry.
Yeah, you just circumnavigate a city if you want to. And
people said to me, it's dangerous. It's like, the most dangerous part is the road. If something's gonna happen to me, it's gonna be hit by a truck or a car. Is the most dangerous part, really, isn't it? When you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody about, not many people hang around waiting to attack somebody. Because people don't go there. It's like when if you go into the woods at night, people, it's dangerous. Like, how long do you think someone would have to wait for somebody stupid enough to walk in the woods to be there? They could be there for months before they see anybody. You're not going to do. It's not a good way. People attack people in cities, don't they?
That's right.
Cities are the most dangerous places. That's why there's loads of people. And greed, desperation.
Yeah, I think of it like this also. If I'm walking in the woods where I live north of Düsseldorf now, and we've got forest just a few hundred yards away. So if I go walking through the forest and I see a tent there, I'm not going to bother with the person who's in that tent. It could be an axe murderer or someone. If there's a bicycle there, I'll go up and have a chat. But maybe we've got the airport nearby, and a lot of backpackers who fly in know, it's a little tip, that they can just come out of the airport and go walking into the forest and camp overnight at the end of the runway. It's great for that. Many airports are the same. They're usually north of a city, and you can camp right near an airport if you arrive late, or even sleep under the chairs at the airport if the planes aren't flying at night. I've done that many times. The backs of the chairs go like that, and you can slide yourself underneath, and then you wake up with legs all around you. You've overslept, and but no, there's no real danger. The only danger is, how I see it, is becoming ill in the middle of nowhere. If you have something like appendicitis or something happens in your tent at night and you just can't get anywhere.
Hmm. Are you a planner or not? Or are you just someone who just sort of goes?
Well, I have a plan,
Hmm.
and it's kind of A to B,
Yeah.
but it's not a straight line. If something
Hmm.
comes along interesting, I'll divert off this route and go and investigate
Yeah.
it. But I'm a planner in a way because I always get to my destination.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Because what you were saying about like people on Facebook and things like that, and I'm looking at these people and they're going like on a weekend trip, and it's like you're you're doing more planning than I've planned for going away for the year. You know what I mean? And I suppose I am more of a, like I'm just going, and I work everything out when I get there for me, which is part of the fun. But I see a lot of people. It's like such meticulous planning, and I find it's like for me that's the opposite of fun. Like, but I should imagine that's their thing. It's I just wondered where you are with it.
Well,
So sometimes it's just like just get out there and go and see what happens. So.
yeah. Well, in the 90s, I spent the whole of the 90s cycling around Europe. I went everywhere, everywhere
Yeah.
you could go. And all I had for that was some pages torn out of a World Atlas. That's folded up in a Polly Pocket. And I would pull these pages out, and between towns, it was like an inch. But sometimes this was a day's riding, and you didn't know what was in between. It didn't show all the villages or anything, and that was the joy of it for me. I still use a paper map. The only electronic thing I have when I'm cycling is the little bike computer on the front, a cheap one from Tesco I've had for years, and my little digital camera, which is always lying around somewhere. It should be here. I've got a little camera where I take pictures. I don't have a mobile device. I don't want to be online. I don't use the internet when I'm traveling. No GPS. And an interesting thing I put out sometimes on these bike pages when people are saying, what GPS do you use, Komoot or Strava or Garmin? And I always write paper maps.
Yeah.
And these people who use the GPS on a mobile phone, they never get any invites from local people to come and stay with them. Because once you're on that mobile device, you could be doing anything, talking to people, looking for your directions, and nobody's going to bother you. You're in your own private little world with your mobile. So these people will never get invited anywhere. So I take my map out at a road junction, I open it up, and I'll purposely stand there longer than I should. And you'd say most of the time, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, if there are people around, somebody will come across to you and ask if they can help. And I always make sure I've got the line of my route drawn on the map, so I can show them where I've come from. And even if you've come from the next town, for most people, that's a wow factor, because people don't cycle distances. No. But if they see you've crossed a few countries, they'll buy you a drink. They'll ask you about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and you become interesting. If you just got to take a paper map out, and people will come across to you. And I've been invited so many times to stay with people, even in developed countries, like recently in the Netherlands and in Germany. This year, many times, invited to stay with people. Yeah.
There is something. It's not so threatening to people, is it, when someone's on a bike as well? What I found really helped me was being on a fat bike, because everyone's like,
they look at it and it's like, I don't know, men seem to have envy of the size of the tyres, especially in South America. If I had £1 or $1 for every time someone asked me if it was a motorbike, my trip would have been funded for me, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have had to pay anything. Because honestly, about 5 times a day at least, someone was asking me, moto. So and it's different to say people just are interested then, especially when you sort of, so, oh yeah, I've come from here. And they're like, on the bike? Yeah. Uh-huh. It's really interesting watching people's faces when they realise that you keep going, and especially on your own as well. It's like that confuses a lot of people. Do you normally go with friends or alone or both?
Well, when I started, I went alone because nobody was interested. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent originally. And people who are born in Stoke-on-Trent get married in Stoke-on-Trent and die in Stoke-on-Trent. Nobody ever leaves. So my first trip to New Zealand, that wasn't actually unusual because most Brits... can you hear me, Russ? You seem to have frozen up. Well, most Brits have got relatives in Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, so going there is quite normal for folks, and it wasn't a culture shock to me. What was a culture shock was going to Calais. I'd been to Canada, the States, Australia, and New Zealand before I went to mainland Europe. Everybody spoke English where I'd been before. The Queen was on the money in most places. 2 countries drove on the correct side of the road, Australia and New Zealand. And then I took my bike over to Calais. And everything was different for me. And the whole idea of my first European trip was to visit a girl. A German girl in Heidelberg. And I had no clue whatsoever about bicycle touring, bikepacking. And actually, there was a trip before in the north of Scotland and the Orkney Islands where I had a huge backpack on the back of a fixed wheel bike in Scotland. That was insane. But yeah, I managed to find the Rhine River and get down to Heidelberg. And I was really proud of getting there. I had the whole of the summer to do this. And I'd managed to get to Heidelberg from Stoke-on-Trent in 3 weeks. I thought it would take months. And that amazed me how easy it was to go by bike and how well developed the bike networks are in mainland Europe as opposed to the UK where they're abysmal. So I'm in Heidelberg and I'm looking at my old pages from the atlas I took with me.
Yeah.
I thought, wait a minute, I can get to the Czech Republic if I head northeast a bit. That would be interesting. So I worked it out that it would take me about 4 days based on what I'd done before. So 5 days later, I was in the Czech Republic, feeling proud of myself. And then I thought, wait a minute, Slovakia, how long will it take me to get there? Another 5 days? And then I met a lot of nice Czech people and was invited to stay with them. They liked to speak English with me. And when I told them I'm going to Slovakia, they were going, oh, no. Dangerous. No, don't go to Slovakia. They were scaring the shit out of me. I was ready to turn back, but I went to Slovakia.
It does, doesn't it?
The people were fantastic in Slovakia. It's a little bit more less developed than the Czech Republic, but I liked it. Then I thought, wait a minute.
Yep.
If I can do this, I can get to Hungary. So the Slovak people, same as the Czech, Hungary, don't go there. It's a dangerous country. And this is how it is from country to country. I ended up in Hungary, got to Lake Balaton, and looked at my map and thought, wait a minute, not far from Croatia here. And the war was just over.
Uh-huh.
The Yugoslav war was just over, so I came into Croatia. And in the north part of Croatia, it's not so picturesque, but I was right above Bosnia. And I thought, shall I dare go for this? So I headed down to the river that marks the border of Bosnia. And this was the shit scary bit. 1996. And the Serbians had carved out their own republic in northern Bosnia called Republika Srpska. And I knew nothing about this. I hadn't got a clue about this. So there's a bridge, half bombed out bridge. Parts of it were a Bailey Bridge. So I left the Croatian control, and the Americans were there, the American army, in a place called Slavonski Brod. And I said, what's it like on the other side of the river? They said, oh, we've got no jurisdiction there. This is Milosevic's land. They've got their own Serbian republic there, unrecognized by anyone in the world except Yugoslavia. I said, is it safe over there? He says, it's up to you. But it's okay in Sarajevo now. If you can get 60 miles down that road, you're in the Bosnian Muslim area, and that's safe at the moment. So I crossed this bridge, and on the other side there was razor wire and this hut, and these guys in fantasy uniforms, and a collection of cabins there. And they took my passport off me. I thought they're going to turn me around, because I could see bombed out buildings everywhere. So they gave me my passport back and said, off you go, Sarajevo.
Wicked.
What an awful landscape that was. Just after the war, totally desolated, destroyed. And these stories of what happened next for another time, I think. But I got
No, come on. What happened? Unless it's so you don't. It's like, you know.
I can't.
This is what most people don't get. This is what, you know, like people like yourself who go different places. People don't get this. They only get what they're given on the news, don't they? You know what I mean? Like I was traveling around Mexico. Everyone's going, oh, dangerous, and. You know, it's like, that's because you don't go there and you only get what you hear off the news. You know, I think like most places are okay, aren't they? You know, you've got to be unlucky in places.
Yeah, a few cyclists have been unlucky, and but it's only an absolute few. But this trip through Bosnia, I was in bombed out buildings. I ended up in a booby-trapped school with it was a place called Krajina. It's Croatia now, but it was a Serbian area, and the Croats had kicked out the Krajina Serbs. So I ended up in a town which was totally destroyed, and there was a school there which was shot to pieces. And I still have the bullet shells in my cupboard here from the playground, and hand grenade pins. In a primary school playground, you see all this. And the school was trashed, and I wanted to go up to the first floor, up the staircase, and there were papers everywhere in the Cyrillic alphabet, and paintings, what kiddies had done, watercolors, and they were all scattered over the stairs. And I was about to walk up these stairs, and between the sheets of paper, I saw a little silver thread, wire. And I looked at it, and there was a pin screwed into the wall with a hoop. It was tied across there, and under the staircase, I followed it. There was a grenade fixed there with this little wire to the pin. And that was a tripwire for anybody. It was booby-trapped. And a few things like that.
How did you feel then?
I thought I could have just been blown up. Yeah. Going up the stairs, pulling that pin out of a grenade, and it was positioned. that it would have gone off underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I found mortar shells, ended up in a minefield once in the same trip. But on that trip,
How'd
I
you end up
wanted...
in the minefield?
Sorry?
How did that happen? How did you end up in the minefield?
I was looking for a place to camp. I'd been to this place called Kanin in Croatia, which was the capital of the Serbian Krajina region.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just overrun by Croatian soldiers. So I headed northwesterly along there, and there was a lake. And it looked pretty beautiful. But this was, I think it was a front line.
Mm-hmm.
And it was late in the day, and I was looking for a place to camp. So there was a dry stone wall, like you get in the Peak District of England, dry stone wall. And there was a wire down between the gates and a notice on the wire. But that was face down. I just ignored it. It looked like a good place to camp, and I went down there, down the field, and behind some bushes, and hammered my tent pegs in. And the next day, I came to this little wire, and I thought, I wonder what that sign says. Is it something worth taking as a souvenir? Because I collect these things, number plates that you find on the road and so on.
Yeah.
And it was in several languages. Skull and crossbones, of course. Mines, Minen, Gewehr. And it was a minefield.
Wow. I thought I'd slept in some dodgy places. Found out nothing like a minefield.
I don't know how far down the field it was, but yeah, my girlfriend, she always says you've used up your 9 lives. Be careful.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to be taking a dump the next morning, do you? It's just straight onto a mine.
You wouldn't need bog paper, would you?
No, yeah, you can clean it straight away, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? And everything else would come out the spring second later.
Yeah.
Oh man. So about the rest of the trip, how were people with you there? Were they standoffish because of just like fear of interaction after the war, or were they friendly, or just which was it, or a bit of both?
They were standoffish because there'd been a war there, and I suppose they really didn't know what to expect. And I was a tourist on a bike going through there. I wondered whether there'd be some anti-British sentiment because in the south of Croatia, just north of Dubrovnik, there was a British military base there, and they dealt with the securing of Mostar, the town of Mostar. That was totally blitzed. I've never seen such a destroyed place. Yeah, it was the bullet holes in buildings was just peppered to pieces.
Yeah.
Even the lampposts, so hardly any lampposts standing because they're riddled with bullet holes and collapsed. In Sarajevo also, and you could see where the mortars had landed on the road. There was a pattern like a hole about a foot deep, 2 feet across. And then there were these rings of shrapnel where this mortar shell, which is a little bit like a pineapple, you know what I mean, where it splinters, fragments like a grenade. And you could see where the fragments had shot out from the mortar. It left a pattern like a sunflower. And those were everywhere. But the only
this was your first bikepacking trip?
No, not the
first one in Europe, wasn't it?
I did a few little ones. I did the Faroe Islands. That was horrible weather. Absolutely horrible weather. It was July as well. These islands are midway between Scotland and Iceland. And Danish territory, and there was a ferry, a new ferry route from Aberdeen to Torshov and the Faroe Islands, and I decided to do it. It only operated for about a year, I believe. And it was just horrible, windy, rainy weather. I've never seen waterfalls going up before.
Scotland and Wales is the same. If the weather's nice, there's not many places better in the world. Like, it's gorgeous, but those days are few and far between, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, I've had some really good weather in Scotland. I lived there for 6 years up in the Highlands, and my son was born there in Inverness. He's 29 now, and when I lived in Scotland, I did a lot of cycling there, and the weather wasn't really that bad. The weather in these islands, the Faroe Islands, it was just a nightmare. Never seen sheep blown over before. That was the only place. You think they can stand all sorts of weather, but to see a sheep blown over and then rolling in the wind, like tumbleweed.
That's no good for sheep, is it? Because they've got a flat back, sheep, haven't they? So if they go on their back, they can't get up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you see a sheep in a field and it's on its back, go and kick it over.
How do you know this, Russ?
I grew up in the country. I'm Welsh, aren't I? You know what I mean?
You're Welsh.
So we know a lot about sheep. I don't know how to cook one, but I know a lot about what rhymes with cook and sheep.
Well, I'm a vegetarian.
I just tenderize them for English people to eat.
That's another strange thing when you're traveling in, let's say, undeveloped countries, what to eat. Yeah.
I'm all right on that. So almost anywhere apart from China, I'll go in with, I'll just type in Google, a Google Translate and say, I'm hungry, just give me anything, I don't care.
You'll eat anything?
Almost, yeah. I won't eat dog, but if I was hungry, I would. But, I used to do it just for fun more than anything. I'd just put, I'm really hungry, I'll eat anything, give me what you've got. And then they'd be laughing their heads off, and it just sort of breaks the ice a bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, how do you get on being vegetarian? Because that can't be difficult. That can't be easy when you're travelling.
I have a little card I made, and I drew it myself. And there's a picture of a chicken, a cow, a pig, and there's just a red cross through them. Then I've got pictures of, I eat eggs and cheese and vegetables, and I've got a little green tick by those. And I don't know why, but when I show this card to people, there's something about the drawings that tickle them. They're always laughing about this. And they realised. I also have a little Buddha as well. I carry on my key ring, because in Buddhist countries, they know if you're a Buddhist and you do this. I'm not Buddhist, but it helps with the vegetarian food, except in Thailand, because the Buddhists there eat meat, don't they?
Yeah, in Thailand it's Ginjay, eat Jay, which is the best interpretation for vegetarian, which is like a festival that they have. So once a year they have for a week a festival where the Buddhist people eat vegetarian, or more vegan than vegetarian.
Right.
Like no garlic and things like that. So yeah, that's the easiest way to say it in Thailand. It's Jay, Ginjay.
Jay, okay. For next time. Have you cycled around Thailand then?
No. I live there normally, but mine was just so for me, for the cycling thing. Where it all started from was an ex-girlfriend and I were talking about going to South America traveling, and she said, she wanted to go, and it was me who said that. I said, let's buy a motorbike and ride round, because I don't want to be on buses. I hate being on buses. And then we split up, and then I'm sat there going, I could cycle. I like exercise. It'd be good to be out in the fresh air all day. let's do that. And then I watched that Ivan. I can't remember what it is. The guy's name. He's travelled from Alaska down all the way down through South America, and he was on a fat bike for a bit, and I had a fat bike, and it's like, yeah, Mike. Then I changed my plan. It's like, get a fat bike. I'm going to go off road as much as I can, and away to go, and let's see it. And I just planned to go for a year. That was my first ever bike packing trip, really. I haven't done camping since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I hadn't really had bikes, so I'm not a cyclist. So it's just right, let's go, and see what happens.
And you did it, yeah.
It excelled or any expectations I had, which my expectations are quite low actually, because I try not to go into things with expectations, because you can never normally live up to what your expectations are, can it? So it just blew me away. I was before I went on that trip, I was a bit low on humans as a species. You know what I mean? That we're so self-absorbed. You know what I mean? Everyone's looking at the phone all the time, and I'm guilty of that as well. And just people.
You told me you got 3.
People. Oh yeah. I've got one with a Colombian number, one with an English number, and one with a Chinese number in it, because I hate swapping SIM cards. But it restored some faith in humanity going on that cycling trip. It was amazing to me. I think living in China and seeing people just so locked into, they've got signs in the metro stations and things in China, saying don't look at your phone because you'll walk into things, which is, in itself, no one's going to read it because they're looking at the phone. So technically the signs are pointless, isn't it? Because they've got to look up from their phone to see the sign. But it is that bad there, you know what I mean? And it's just so. When I was in America, I was surprised in Texas. I'd be the only person at times in a restaurant, even a McDonald's, who was looking at my phone, whereas other people were talking to each other.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That was in Texas, you know what I mean? I don't know, I can't remember in Houston, but in the small towns in Texas, people were like that. It was nice, and like in Colombia and things, you walk into a restaurant and you say hello to people. Mm-hmm. Unless you're in the middle of a city, but you're in a small town or something, you walk into a restaurant, people will say hello to everybody and then sit down. And it's nice, like, you walk around and you say hello to people, and I just really liked it, It's like in lockdown, my mum was saying when she was walking around a village that prior to that I'd lived in all my life, and my mum had lived in most of her adult life. She'll be walking, because of lockdown, everyone was out walking, weren't they? And only probably about 50% of the people would say hello back. I was speaking to a friend about it. I find it more difficult to ignore someone than say hello to someone. You know what I mean? It's just not in me.
Yeah.
And Thailand's very much like that as well. It's like foreigners don't want to speak to other foreigners. It's a bit like Little Britain. I'm the only gay in the village. You know what I mean? I'm the only foreigner in this village. You know what I mean? Stay out of my space. It's like I don't want to know your life story. I'm just going to say hello and walk on. Like I had an argument with a German guy once in 7-Eleven about that, because I just went, right, hello, and then I was a bit sarcastic with him. He's like, English, eh? It's like, yeah, but what's wrong with you, man? Why can't you just say hello? I'm not trying to get any money off you or anything. You know what I mean? Just being polite.
Ooh,
I don't know. I don't get it.
Living in Germany here, everybody seems to be addicted to their mobile phones. Mm-hmm. I've seen so many young people, they're walking around, school kids on the railway platform, falling off onto the tracks.
Seriously, falling off. And on the trams, for example, when a tram is full, there are doors on both sides of the tram. If the street's wide, the tram's down the middle and the platform's in the middle. You've got a platform here and a tram either side. Mm-hmm. But when the street's narrow, it can be the next stop, the street goes narrow, and then the door on the other side of the tram opens.
And I've seen people leaning on the doors on their mobile, and they're used to the doors opposite them opening, and then whoom, they're out on their back on the street. But I don't know about your village in Wales, because when I say Stoke-on-Trent, I'm actually from a little village called Werrington, which is in the Staffordshire Moorlands. Nobody knows it. And when I'm there, people talk to you in the street. People recognise you. And one thing I like about people from Stoke-on-Trent, they're really down to earth. And you take a bus into the city, and people are talking to each other, and I like that. Nobody's on the phones. Even the young folks are chatting. And if you sit next to somebody, you're going to have a conversation with them. And it's good. You go and sit in a pub in Hanley, which is the main city of Stoke-on-Trent. I go in a pub on my own, and I sit there with a pint, and I love it. I just sit there, don't take a newspaper out or anything, and I wait until people start chatting with me, have really good conversations. And I like it that it's still like that. I've got a mate in Manchester, and I've been to Manchester. Every time I go to Stoke, I fly into Manchester. And to get the train to Stoke from Manchester Airport, you've got to go to Manchester Piccadilly first and change. So I always go into the city, have a drink of Boddingtons. I like that. And it's not the same as Stoke. Nobody will speak to you. You can sit there with your pint for half an hour. People will be right next to you and no conversation. They're all on their phones. And 30 miles to the south in Stoke, it's totally different. It's funny, isn't it, that?
I used to work, well, when I used to work at a place, we had a depot in Stoke, and you go there, it was quite friendly there. I used to enjoy having a chat with people while I was there. But most places you go are friendly, but the bigger cities, when there's a transient, when there's new people coming into there, so there isn't a community spirit, it's very different. Like the village I grew up in, it's probably doubled in size since I left in the last 12 years.
Oh, where is that?
Just what, 7 miles outside Chester, past Chester, between Chester, Wrexham and Deeside.
Oh, right.
So just into North Wales there.
Right.
But yeah, it's it's close enough to Chester for people to commute. So a lot of people will come out there, and there's a lot of building going on. So there's a lot of new people there and it's just not the same, like, is it? You know what I mean? People don't speak to neighbours anymore. I was chatting to my friend, and he was saying, he goes out walking or running, and there's again 50% of the people will speak to him. You know what I mean? I find it quite sad. Like, it's just like, what? I don't understand how you don't do it. I don't get it, if you know what I mean. I really can't understand how you'll just duck your head and look away from someone and look anywhere else. I can't. I don't understand it.
I'm with you there.
It's like, it's just, I don't know whether it's how you're brought up or what, but you can't be that unconfident that you can't say hello and keep walking and make sure you don't continue a conversation. You know what I mean? So, there are times when I've said hello to people and then regretted it because they're going on telling me about, they've got cancer and this and that, and you're like,
oh dear.
I'm only waiting for the bus, mate. You know what I mean? I'm just being polite. I didn't really want to know.
Any bus.
So I remember when I was probably about 16, and I was quite insecure, not secure about myself and things, because after my dad died, I really struggled. Well, I don't know if I've ever got over it, but so I remember this woman started to tell me, I was like, probably 15 or 16, she started to tell me about how she's got cancer and everything at the bus stop. I didn't know where to put myself. I was like, help! Just wishing the bus had hurry up, you know what I mean? You can't cut someone off, because she probably needed someone to speak to. I knew that much, but you know what I mean? I was like a young kid, I was like, felt really awkward with it. So I sort of get if that happens, but that's a rarity, isn't it?
It is a rarity, yeah.
So where's the best place you've been cycling?
The best place, the place I really enjoyed the most, and the guys who were with me as well, was Russia.
Okay. So where I've never been, it's somewhere I'd like to go, but I've just never got round to.
Well, we cycled across Siberia. We set out from Stoke-on-Trent and ended up crossing Siberia, then all the way by bike, and then down through Mongolia to Singapore. That was the biggest trip.
How did you survive through Siberia? What did you take a lot of food with you, or did you? Is the places just because it's quite desolate, isn't it? Or is that my perception?
It's beautiful there. You're heading east all the time, and you go over the Urals. Then you're in Asia. Then you go through the big cities: Chelyabinsk, Omsk, Novosibirsk, Krasnoyarsk. And you've got 1,000 kilometers between each place.
Okay.
So we stocked up on food, but on these Trans-Siberian roads back then, this was 2001, you'd rarely see traffic. There was just trucks. There were no cars going. You saw cars on the back of trucks as well. There's no petrol stations, if you think about it. 1,000 kilometers between towns. People are not going to drive to see people, are they? They'll get the train.
Yes.
But you've got trucks going, and it was a funny thing because the same truck drivers were passing us every now and then, and they realised that there were cyclists on the road, and they would bring food for us when they were on their return journey, hoping to see us again. So we had big churns of milk to drink, loads of vodka, biscuits, cakes, bread, halva, everything you could imagine. And the Russian people were very friendly. And about every 100 kilometers, you've got a cafe. And we said afterwards, it would be great to have a book about these cafes because each one has its own character. One of them's an old railway carriage, for example. The other one's like a dacha. Then you've got a basic little hut. And you've got a few containers. Then there's one that looks like an Orthodox church. And each one was different. But the same food. The same food in every cafe.
Tea and vodka.
The vodka, it's not a stereotype. Back then, the vodka came in bottles with a bottle top on, like a beer bottle. So the idea, once it's open, it's got to be drank. Yeah.
Okay.
And another amazing thing was the police there. The police have checkpoints on the entry and exit of all the cities. So we let them know, we chatted with them, and one of the guys in our group, Rory, he smokes like a chimney. So he had loads of Benson and Hedges, gold packets back then. And he would offer these cigarettes to the guys at the checkpoint, and we would show the map where we're heading to. And these were our kind of insurance, in a way. They knew that we would be at the next city in, say, a week's time. And the guys there at that checkpoint were expecting us. We had tea, vodka. And sometimes we went off with the police to shoot the Kalashnikovs in fields. And
Wicked, man.
It was a lot of fun in Russia. Really a lot of fun.
It's like with China as well, and with Russia and that. The stereotypes that we get from the news, is really bad, isn't it? You know what I mean? There are problems with Chinese people when they're not in their country, or you're having a meal or something, and there's loads of them, then they're a nightmare, I admit. You know what I mean? But their hearts are good. You know what I mean? Most of them want to help you. You know, I remember like I had a flat tire and it's like 6 o'clock in the morning and I looked and it's just like looked like a bombed out village or town in China, like in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's just like really old. And so I went in there and I sort of point at my tire and this fella goes, come with me. So he goes and bangs on this fella's door. This fella comes to the door like this, you know, hair everywhere, half dressed, like just woke up. Looks at me, looks at my bike, starts laughing, turns around, goes back in, gets dressed, comes out and fixes my bike for me. You know what I mean? And you know, but everyone's got this impression that the heartless. And the same with Russians. You know what I mean? I train with Russians sometimes when doing like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu and things, and they've got a different mentality to us. You know, if you train with them, it's a fight. You know, whatever happens, whatever you're doing, it's a fight. You know, but that's how they train.
Oh, that was the story about fighting in Ulan-Ude. It's the last Russian city before the Mongolian border. And we gate crashed a party. It looked like a school disco. You know, chairs on one side of a dance floor with the women sitting there and the guys on the other side in chairs. And this would be something right out of Borat, I think. This cheap disco thing playing this horrible old music. And then we heard in the function room next door something was going on. And it was a kind of party for the military. And I ended up with the Generalissimo's wife in the toilets. It was totally mad. And my mate Rory, he's
quite dangerous.
Huh? I can't go into details here. But before this,
you can't leave me hanging, man.
Rory's a stocky guy, a little bit of a geezer. And there was this guy, Russian guy. He looked like he'd been boxing a lot. He'd got this funny shaped nose, and he lifts his t-shirt, and he's got this 6-pack there. And he speaks a bit of English. Go on, hit me as hard as you can. And Rory's had quite a few drinks. And he goes, and he says, no, not like a pussy. Hit me like Klitschko. So Rory's, boo. And the guy, is that the best you can do? Now it's my turn. Lift your shirt. And Rory, fucking hell, this guy's got an arm like this. So Rory did this, and the guy's like, you're a good guy. Like, if I really hit you, you would be dead now. But he respected that Rory was prepared to be hit. We never saw any fights there in Russia. The people were funny.
No, I mean when I'm training like Muay Thai or boxing or Jiu-Jitsu or MMA with them, when it's combat sports, isn't it? So whenever they don't, most of the time when you practice things, you just drill it and you don't go hard. They go hard like it's a fight all the time. That's how they're wired. You know what I mean? If you're sparring with them, you're having a fight with them. You know what I mean? It's not tap tap like in Thailand. It's tap tap tap. You know, but there, no, it's a fight. You're fighting with them. Like I've done it where you've had to choke them out. They won't, because what you do is you just got it, nice one. All right, practice again. See, not them. They're like, you can tap if you want to. They're a different breed, like, you know. So the other one what I want to know about is, which you told me about, but I'd like other people to know. I'm in Colombia. Your experience of Colombia.
My experience of Colombia, that was 1989, 31 years ago, when the American battleships, aircraft carriers were out in the Caribbean and in the Pacific, sending jets over to bomb the cocaine factories in the jungle. It was a time of Pablo Escobar as well, and he was a kind of hero, wasn't he? And the gringos were destroying everything, the Americans, and we were warned not to go through Colombia. And I checked with the British Embassy in Caracas, and they said, no, don't do Colombia. But being young and foolish, and my mate had just arrived there from Stoke-on-Trent to Caracas with a load of money. I said, let's cross Colombia and get to Ecuador. Yeah, okay, mate. So we ended up at the Colombian border with Venezuela, a place called Cucuta. And you had to cross this bridge, and the difference between Venezuela and Colombia then, because Venezuela reminded me of the United States, big American cars there. It was quite wealthy. I stayed with families in Venezuela who had beautiful houses and apartments, and it seemed quite rich. And then we crossed the bridge into Colombia, and it was really third world. Parts of the road were missing for a start. There'd been landslides, and there was, just after walking across the border, there were confused looking people. One woman walking with just a t-shirt on, the rest of her body was naked from below. And what's going on? What kind of a place is this? Then we had to get an entry stamp. There was nothing at the border. And we had to find an immigration office called DAS in the city centre of Cucuta. And this involved a bribe to get the stamp. So then we took buses to get to Bogota. I remember the landscape was spectacular. But there were military checkpoints all the way. And these guys would get on the bus, they would search everything. They would have Uzi, these Israeli Uzi machine guns on their belts, and very serious looking guys. And we actually made it to Bogota, and I remember the bus station. It was like a compound, a walled compound with a watchtower and a soldier with gates. And we realized we were the only gringos there. We were taken into a police office, and we were asked what we're doing there, where we're going. And we said we're eventually heading for Ecuador. It's dangerous there. You've got to hide your money if you've got any cash. And yeah, it was a bit scary. And Bogota, it's what I imagined Havana, Cuba, like maybe 10 years ago. There were horse and carts in the streets, old American cars in the 1950s. Yeah, it was really backwards. Piles of rubble everywhere, bricks and stuff and rubbish. Anyway, we headed towards Ecuador in the coming days, and south of Cali, we had to take a bus through the night. And I remember the bus. It was kind of a luxury bus. They had a movie playing on a TV, and it was... I can't remember what movie it was, but it was some kind of shootout movie. Some kind of weird thing. Steven Seagal, I think, was in it, and it was just getting you in the mood for guns, this kind of film. And the guys loved this. So we're on this bus going through the night, and I remember we were on an uphill section, and a pickup truck came past us and rammed the brakes on, and the driver had to hit his brakes. So I looked forward. I was a few seats behind the driver, and I saw these guys get out of the pickup truck with terrorist masks on and guns, and I thought, oh, fuck.
This isn't good.
This is for real, Andy. What next? And these guys got in through the door of the bus, which is halfway down the door, halfway down the bus, middle of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 guys were in the bus with the pistols. One was right next to me with this old chrome-plated pistol, which I thought could have gone off at any moment. He was touching my head and waving it around. And there was the driver at gunpoint. And we had to follow this truck. And then he veered off down this dirt road. And we went along this bumpy dirt road, down for nearly an hour. And right down at the bottom was this kind of camp with just a couple of light bulbs hanging. There was a generator humming away. And they got everybody off the bus and searched us at gunpoint. And they realized we were the only gringos, so we were singled out.
Yeah.
And they did this, it still freaks me a bit, like a mock execution with the gun at the back of your head. Click. Then laughing. And you don't actually shit yourself in times like this. I thought I would. But you're shaking, your whole body's shaking with fear, uncontrollably shaking. So they left us alone, and one guy was giving this kind of political speech. I'm sure Marxism or something was bandied about, but these local people on the bus, these Colombian people, were yelling at them. And there was an argument going on between this leader of this group of guerrillas. We just thought they were common bandits in the end because they became totally disorganized. They drank alcohol. And
that's a scary thing with weapons, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be starting to get really scared then.
Well, they'd taken what they had from us, cameras and passports. And I don't know how I got this bravado. I said, I'm going to find these bags and get our passports back and our cameras and documents if I can. And I sneaked in and found these bags and rummaged through them until I'd found the passports, the airline tickets, which were important there. I got one camera back and I got a load of money back as well. And there were 2 Colombian girls who were ready to go backpacking through Peru, through Ecuador and Peru, and they'd lost everything. And I gave them this Colombian money that I'd found. I'd got my money back. So I said to my mate, Harvey, I said, come on, let's leg it. Let's go up this path. What if they come after us? Well, we just dart into the trees. So we headed up this path. It didn't take as long as I thought. It was the middle of the night. So I said, let's wave a buzz down if it comes, or a truck if it's going in the direction we want. And Harvey said, come on, let's get away as far as possible from this little jungle road down the road. I said, no, let's stay here, because what happens if we're several miles down and we wave down the truck with the guys who are looking for us? So if we stay by where this little dirt track, if we stay 100 yards from there in the trees, then we can see if they come out looking for us. And they didn't. And we waved a bus down and got to the Ecuadorian border the next morning. Yeah. And it wasn't a good feeling, to go through that. It wasn't.
I don't know. I think I'd feel mixed emotions on that, to tell you the truth. One, that I've got away with it, if you know what I mean, which would be like, super exciting but there's also that vulnerability. Like when I had the thing with it was nowhere near as bad as that with the Mexican cartel.
You did, yes?
Yeah, because I was cycling Tampolinas, I think it is, or Tampolina or whatever it is, which I didn't realise at the time, which is one of the most dangerous parts of Mexico. And on the road, I was coming down the main road, and there's like, if you go 5 minutes without seeing a police vehicle or an army vehicle with a machine gun on the back of it, that's a long time. And this road goes on for miles, like, you know what I mean? So there's always army vehicles going up and down it. So I decided to turn off, and what I was going to do, I'd seen this like path, this small track going across the mountains and down into Mexico City. But it was like way off. It's not, I think it was like a walking track, really. So I'm cycling along, beautiful day, it's gorgeous, everything's going well. Spoke to a couple of people, taking photos, taking videos, and next thing, 2 pickups surround me, just like out of a movie. Like, one gets out with a vest on, another one's got a camo jacket, Kevlar helmet, and it's like, yeah, these aren't the army or the police, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And they're starting to search me, you know, and it was, and you just feel vulnerable, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I can't do anything, you know. Even if I thought I could fight them, they've got weapons, and I'm stood across a bicycle. So as soon as I go to get off the bike, they've got time anyway. So it's like, you know, whatever happens, I'm in this dodgy situation. But in all fairness, unlike the guys that you were with, I think these guys were very casual. They were used to doing this. This wasn't new to them. They weren't nervous. You know what I mean? They were laughing and joking with me, very professional. You know, they weren't trying to humiliate me like they did with you, where they put the gun to. That's what they're trying to humiliate you, get you like, hopefully get you crying on the floor, weren't they? That's what they wanted to do, just so they felt power. These guys weren't doing that. They were offering me cocaine and having a laugh and a joke. But there's another guy on the phone to the boss all the time, and I know if the boss had gone, yeah, just kill him, boom, they'd have killed me. But when people are professional, you know, they don't make mistakes in the same way, you know what I mean? They're not going to slip with a gun and shoot you. Yeah. What really scared me was the second, because they went, and then I left it a bit, then turned the camera on, started talking to it, then they came back. So, and it's like they want to have a look at the GoPro, and it was new to me, so I'm all fingers and thumbs, don't know how to delete the video off. So eventually I said, look here, I have the memory card, take it. And they're like, no, how much is it? So they bought it off me.
Oh wow!
They've got more money. They've got more money than me, haven't they?
Yeah.
Mexican cartel. they don't know what to do with all their money, do they? You know what I mean? So yeah. But there's a bit where a pickup truck starts coming down the road towards us, and the main guy who's on the phone to the boss looks round, realises he hasn't got his machine gun, runs back to the vehicle, and it's like, uh-oh, I don't want to be in a crossfire. But it was okay. So the first time they stopped me, I carried on going. The second time they stopped me, I just turned around and went back. It took it out of me, you know. So and then I couldn't find anywhere to sleep, so I had to sleep I went to this derelict house, and it was like there's obviously been somebody there the day before, so it's like I felt uncomfortable. And then went and tried to go to a town. There was no hotels in this town, and then ended up sleeping just behind a hedge somewhere. I don't know. So, yeah, I like having the story now. You know what I mean?
It's good to have the stories. We've experienced some crazy things. What about animals? I've had quite a few animal encounters. Have you?
Not really. No. Nothing where it done anything, you know, bad to me. There was a couple of two. One is going through Texas. I'd see loads of wild boars, and I was worried about camping with them everywhere because they're aggressive, aren't they? Because they're at the side of the road, hit by cars.
Especially if they've got the little ones.
Yeah, it's in Texas, and there wasn't many places. It was big long roads, like 70, 80 miles in between with no shelter or anything. So I'd stay in like laybys, and you with us? I'd stay in laybys, and then Yeah, okay. I'd stay in lay-bys, and there was this one where I stopped, like, and there was this cat food there, which I thought was a bit weird. So, and then I'm putting my tent up, and then there's this, what are they called now? Oh, American animal. Oh, I can't think of the name. Raccoon. Is it raccoon? I don't know. What ones are the ones that go in the buildings, in the roofs and things?
Yeah. They look like they've got a bandit thing on.
So this would come, it'd walk around, walk all the way around, look at me, I'd look at it, and then it'd go round, and then it'd do it again. I realised it wanted the cat food. once he went and got the cat food, he was all right, like, so I was feeding the cats there. But that was where this, like, proper redneck, atypical redneck American with a vest on, with teeth all over the place, eating apple through a tennis racket. And, like, he comes up talking to me, so I'm chatting to him, and then he goes off, and I go and do my thing with my tent, maybe get some dinner. And it's getting dusk, so you can't see that well. I look across, and he's sort of dancing. I'm like, what's he doing? And he's gyrating on the table, and then I look closer, and he's got his pants around his ankles, hasn't he? He's on the table. I'm like, nah, mate. Honestly, one, you're not my thing. You know what I mean? And two, I've been cycling all day, and I'm just not interested. You know what I mean? Even if I was gay, you're not that attractive. And two, I'm shattered. But yeah, he was there for ages, dancing, with like just his pants around his ankles on the table. Oh, I don't know if it normally works or not.
I've never experienced anything like that. My best
it happened in Colombia as well.
Some guys attract gay men. My best mate is like that. Yeah. Harvey.
Like gay though.
Yeah. I mean, nearly every other time I'm with him, there'll be some guy coming on to him. I've never had that happen. I remember I was disappointed once. A good mate of mine I've known since school days. I went out with him with my girlfriend because he never goes out. And my girlfriend got a bit drunk and said, "Hey, Rob, why haven't you got a girlfriend? You're not gay, are you?" And he said, "Yeah, in fact, I am." And I never knew this. Uh-huh. I'm shocked. I said, "All the time I've been up in your bedroom watching Doctor Who. Bloody hell." And his mum always knocked on the door. "Is it safe to come in?" I never thought. I never clicked. I said, "You're not, are you, Rob?" He says, "I am actually, Andy. Why haven't you ever told me? You never asked." And then my girlfriend at the time, Sue, she says, "So, Rob, do you fancy Andy?" "No, he's not my type. He's not gay bait." And I said, I felt a little bit offended. "Hey, Rob, why not? What's wrong with me?" "Yeah, you're just not attracted to gay men." "Why not? Tell me." That was a funny experience. Yeah.
That's a couple of times for me, like another time in Texas as well. Some fellas like go, "Ooh, does that tattoo go all the way up your leg?" And all this to me. It's like,
no.
All right. And then some other guy. I was cycling through Colombia. Some guy, it's going uphill, so I might have been pushing. He cycles past me, and then he stood down this little alley with his pants around his ankles, going, "Hey!" It's like, no, mate. Honestly, I haven't got the energy. I'm going uphill, man. You know what I mean? I don't. Normally, I might have a blowjob, but no, like I'm too tired.
Oh, but
I was laughing. So, Dick, what are you doing?
I almost had an encounter with Claude Balls.
What's that?
Claude Balls. You don't know this?
Oh. No.
It's an encounter with an animal. I was cycling in Thailand with this guy Stefan from Quebec, Canada, and we were just on the narrowest bit of Thailand as you go down the peninsula.
Yes.
And
Malaysia.
Yeah, we'd passed a sign saying the narrowest part of Thailand. It's like 9 kilometers from the coast to the Burmese border. So a bit further down, we know we've got to find a place to camp, wild camp. So we're heading south, and I said, "Oh, there's a river here. It looks like a canal, an old canal going inland." So let's follow it. So we followed this road for miles, and then it turned into a dirt path, but it had been used sometime by large vehicles. So we went down there, and I thought to myself, we must be getting really close to the Burmese border here, because we've been on this track for about half an hour. And then there were some fallen trees over the path, and I thought, oh, great, this is super. Seriously super, because no vehicles can come in. We'll lift the bikes over, and then beyond that, we're going to be safe.
Yeah.
So we went through this, along this footpath, and we found a clearing in the jungle. And it was an area maybe 100 by 100 foot square.
Yeah.
And you'd got some foundations built, a few layers of stone built, so they were going to build some kind of building there, but all the jungle creepers had gone over the concrete like that. You couldn't hardly see the concrete, but you could feel it. And it was perfect to put the freestanding tents with just the netting and not the outer layer because of the humidity. So we're there, camping a few yards away from each other, sitting in our tents. It starts to go dark, and then the day creatures stop. You know, you've got this silence of about 20 minutes before the night creatures start in the jungle. So it's silent. Then we can hear somebody crunching through the jungle. And you've got to imagine we're in the square area, and we've got rainforest around us on nearly all sides, except where this path comes in. We can hear this. I said, Stefan, can you hear that? He said, yeah, what do you think? Who do you think it is? I said, okay, what's going through my mind is we're close to the border. It's a border patrol, maybe Thai army, maybe poachers, or just local people. And we heard it crunching through. And then out of the jungle, I thought my life was over then. Tiger. Huge tiger. That was the joke, Tiger in the Bed by Claude Balls.
Oh, okay.
And there it was, this tiger about 20 yards from us, and it was profile, sniffing the air.
Yeah.
And my life drained out of me. I was sitting like Buddha in the tent. It was almost dark. The last bit of light was going. And I looked over to Stefan. He was sitting with his eyes bulging out. And all the thoughts that went through my mind, it's going to turn its head, see us, and I just imagined these claws. I thought, I've got a minute to live.
You're not fighting one of them off.
I thought to myself, I've got 1 minute maximum to live. And I have a knife I carry for cutting things, and I took that out, and I thought, if it leaps for me, I'll put the knife up. Maybe I'll survive. And then it's bizarre, all the thoughts that go through your head then. And I thought, I hope it gets Stefan first. I'm willing it in my mind.
It's that joke, isn't it? I can't outrun a tiger. I know, but I can outrun you.
Yeah, I thought, if it gets Stefan, I'll slash my tent with this knife and run.
Okay.
While it's tucking into him. And all these nasty thoughts were coming through, and all these thoughts have just been eaten. And then I relaxed, and I thought, hey, how many people from Stoke-on-Trent have had on their gravestone eaten by a tiger? How cool will that be? And that was the last kind of thought before it started moving along the edge. It never looked towards us, this bloody big thing. and it went into the jungle again. And at that moment, all the night creatures started making a noise, so you couldn't hear if it was going away from you. And I sat all night alert in that tent, holding this bloody knife in my hand until the first light came. And when it did, we took those tents down as fast as we could. Just put a bungee over them on the back of the bike and went. And we didn't speak about that. We never spoke about it. And that's one of the weirdest things. Why didn't we talk about it for the rest of the trip? But when I met the guy 5 years later in Canada, went over there to visit him, I said, do you remember that night when we were in the jungle? And then he felt okay to tell the story. But we never spoke about it right after the day or weeks.
That is quite strange, isn't it? Because I know that, fucking hell, that's all I'd have been talking about for the next week. I know, I was shitting myself. I was thinking, sat there, it's like this. I was even thinking, I hope it kills you.
It's something I rarely talk about because it's just too unbelievable for people. People just really wouldn't get that. We had a wolf come to the tent in Siberia. That was a lone wolf and a wolf. Yeah, two bears.
Yeah, they could be dangerous bears, can't they?
Yeah, they can be. But we were okay. Monkeys in the tropics. I hate monkeys.
The cheeky, aren't they, monkeys? Like, they don't care.
Biting your brake cables and your brook saddle.
Seriously?
And, yeah.
Well, when you park your bike up in the night, you mean?
When you they don't come out in the night. They sleep when it's dark. But when you're wild camping in places like Malaysia, and I hate these palm oil plantations, but they're great to camp in. But you get monkeys in there. And you put your bike up by one of these palm oil trees, and they're jumping on it. So I have a catapult, it's a Black Widow catapult.
Yeah.
And I pick up a little stone, and you're like that. I know it's a bit cruel. A lot of PC brigade would be vilifying me for this. So I just take a shot at what looks like the head monkey. Or if you got a pack of dogs, the head dog. Yeah. And then they start screaming, and then they know once you do that again, they know. And off they go. Some real cheeky little buggers will try and run at you to scare you, and then you just... Yeah, but I don't like monkeys, no. Yeah. Remind me too much of my sister's kids when they were young. We had monkeys coming into the room in Kenya. They'd jump in through the window, grab things, and get off. You know what I mean? So you had to have the windows shut. Even if you were sat there, they'd come in. Yeah, they don't care, do they? You know, they're not like other animals where they're like, "I'll have a look." They're just like, "No, I'm going in. I don't care. I know you're not as fast as me, so you can't get me." Yeah, so, but go on, Russ.
No, go on. I was just going to ask you a question about something else, but if you've got something else to add.
No, I was just going to talk about this year, 2010. It turned out to
2020?
be 2020, yeah. I'm back in 2010. It's 2020, isn't it?
The year, 1990 seems like 10 years ago.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? But this year, it's been one of my best years for being on the bike.
Okay.
I've been able to enjoy Europe again. So setting off from home and just doing huge distances down through Switzerland and Austria, Czech Republic, to Bulgaria and Poland, And when the so-called pandemic is on, and everybody's at home shitting themselves in fear, watching news all the time, and they're becoming armchair virologists, I've been out just enjoying myself, really.
Yeah.
And it's been a really good year. I've really enjoyed it. But I don't know if you saw on the bikepacking page some of the comments you're getting. I remember going out in March or April, and we did some wild camping, building fires in the German forest, and the amount of flack I got from bikepackers, the ones that don't bikepack, you know. You fucking idiot. Don't you realize you're killing people? Hey? Stay at home, save lives. You're killing people. And all the horrible words. I had so many private messages which were horrible. Really. Because I was out in the forest with a friend building a fire and getting away from this corona paranoia. And people couldn't get that around their heads. It kind of disappointed me in a way how people were reacting to somebody.
There's not a lot of middle ground with it, is there? And I think that's one of the problems with the world at the moment. Or I'm not sure. There doesn't perceive to be a lot of middle ground with anything, does there?
It's black and white.
Everything's just polarized now, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's everything's got to be at the end. And I think that's where it's like when I was looking at stuff is most people are in the middle, though, aren't they? But they don't have a voice. They're not the ones who comment on things. You know what I mean? So, like, I had to stop listening to Joe Rogan and things like that and stuff because it's just you're always seeing the extremes all the time. You know what I mean? And both of them I don't like. You know what I mean? I don't like left-wing extremists and right-wing extremists. They're both the same to me. They both want the same thing. You know, and everything seems to be that now. Like politics in the UK is getting more fractious. It's like an American disease. Politics is now. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest virus around. You know, it's just like it's a new religion, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
I know, and it's and the middle people don't have a voice. So we only hear you're going to kill everyone, and then you hear people like me who's like, "There's no such thing as corona," you know what I mean? and you know, you'd call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever, like, you know. I try not to. That's why I like being away, is because I sort of people don't speak the same language of me. I don't have to listen to it. Don't listen to the news here. All I do is watch fights, you know. So, but yeah, it's, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere doing a healthy activity. You ain't killing anyone. You know,
it's ridiculous. It's getting like that in Germany now because they've had this lockdown light, which they're extending. What lockdown light means is all the non-essential shops are closed. So you've got little bookshops, for example, shops that sell cards, greeting cards. They are non-essential, but you can buy books and greeting cards in supermarkets where you can buy essential items. So it's taking the business away from the little shop owners. This is not thought out properly. It's really not thought out. I read on the BBC website that the Department of Trade and Industry in the UK say that there are going to be 2.5 million people jobless because of this. And a lot of these big stores have shut down. Burton and Topshop the last week. And the hospitality industry is devastated. And but yet the boss of Amazon made 96 billion extra profit
Yep.
in the third quarter, and sales have tripled in England.
Mm-hmm.
Online sales.
Yeah, whether you like me and believe there's an elite conspiring against it to run the small businesses out, have a basic income for everybody, a bit like 1984 sort of thing. We're getting towards thought police. You can't think this, you know what I mean? So when we're getting towards that, and if you think about murdering someone, then you're a murderer sort of thing. It's ostensibly being that now, you know what I mean? If you think anything of anyone who isn't of the same, if you think badly of anyone who isn't white, then that's a bad thought, and that's an illegal thought, and it's, I don't really look at people in their colour or whatever. I just look at them personally as, are they okay or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're a horrible person, then I don't like you, and if you're an alright person, I like you. You know what I mean? And irrespective of what colour, creed, or whatever it is you are, but it just seems to be punishing healthy people and their livelihoods and their futures to save the weak. Ostensibly, you know what I mean? I know there's a lot of things you can do. You can just isolate the people who are vulnerable, and then everyone else can go about their lives. You know what I mean?
But it's scary what you're saying. The thought police. Yeah. What was the one I saw? Somebody had done a Photoshop of police, and on the back of their jacket, it was the offensive tweet squad.
Yeah.